Hey there, Russ here. Welcome back to the shop. Excuse me. I'm standing here by my shop table saw, and I wanted to talk about the gripper today. I haven't done a video on that in a long time, and quite frankly, I've been getting a lot of activity on that one for some reason, and a few questions have arisen. Plus, I have a couple of improvements I thought I'd discuss, so I thought we'd kind of go over the gripper. First and foremost, let me announce that excuse me, this will be my 5th video about the gripper. So I've actually set up a playlist called DIY Grrripper, and all these videos will be in there. And Tom Stevens, he made one of my grippers, and I did a video on it. I'll leave a link to his too, if he gives me permission to do that. So if not, you got to go look up Tom Stevens on his channel and then go find that video. So, but it should be in my list. I'm sure he won't have a problem with it. So the whole thing is that I actually made this list so that you'll be able to find all of them. And if you really want to seriously make your own, you probably should just watch everything that I've done and that Tom has done. It will help you to decide how to make yours. So let's talk about this gripper to begin with. I started off 4, 5, 6 years ago, and I made my first set. And it was just MDF. With it had 3 negative and 4 positive quadrants on this thing. By negative and positive, is the negative is the grooves, and the positive are the legs on these things. And so, and theoretically, you put it one way against the fence, and you try to slide up to the saw. If it would hit one of the legs, you just flipped it 180 degrees, and you went through, and now it would not hit the saw. And so it's just designed, and the pattern can be any pattern that you want. The pattern I've been using lately is actually 4 positive and 4 negatives. 2 of the negatives are double quadrants, and 2 of the positives are double quadrants. And this worked out pretty well. I've been happy with this pattern, but you can make any pattern you want. If you watch the other videos, you'll see how to make your own patterns and that sort of thing. Oh, you copy this one. So this one is 3 1/4 inches wide. But there is a modification to this. I've been made aware that some of the guys were having trouble with hitting their legs and making them smaller and smaller. And it made me realize that I use a 1/16 inch kerf blade, a little 7 1/4, always had for a long time. And so it wasn't as big a problem. I shaved on mine as I went through, but if you have an 1/8 inch wide kerf, you're going to take quite a bit of that leg away. So in order to solve this problem, I thought about it, and you want to increase. Everywhere there's a negative area, here you have 2 of them. So you would add 1/8 of an inch, the width of your kerf of your blade that you're using. If it's a 1/8 inch, then you want to increase the negative here by 1/8 inch. Increase this negative by 2/8, and so on. This is 2 quadrants, so put 2 1/8 wider. And here you would put 1/8 wider. Leave the positive the same. So that's going to shift this and make it wider. So it'll actually, if you have an 1/8 inch, that'll increase it by a 1/2 inch in size. Mine, it would increase it by right at a 1/4 inch. Not a problem, as long as you leave your legs the same and just push it out by adding that in just the negatives, then it won't ever touch the blade. That'll solve that problem completely. So you can design your own pattern on paper or in the computer and then print it out, measure it out, or you can just calculate it out and use something to measure it out accurately, a ruler. So you can do it lots of different ways. Just keep them out. If you have a problem trying to do your own pattern, you don't want to follow this pattern for some reason, let me know, and you can send me a note, and I'll try to help you do whatever it is you're trying to accomplish if you want, if I can help you. No problem. I'm usually here all day, every day anyway, so, and I don't mind helping you out. So if you have any questions about any of that, if you make your own, make sure you've watched all the ones in the playlist before you start making it, which will also include this video. So anyway, enough about the pattern and the size, because you can make it any size you want too. When to use. I've reached a conclusion that some people think that you have to have just one only push stick or your favorite. And that's not true. It depends on what I'm doing is what decides which one I use. When I'm using small materials, box making, model making, something very small, I find myself, this is by far the best way to do very small pieces. If I start getting into bigger pieces, quite honestly, then I go to a regular push stick with a gripping here. This has sandpaper so that my downward pressure also increases friction. And this one has a heel so that it extends out onto your work so that your work stays flat on the table as I'm pushing. This is actually the one I use on larger material then. So this is like an inch and an eighth inch wide. So if I use this, I got to make sure my blade is at least that far away because I don't want to ever cut into this. If it's less than that, then I would probably use the gripper. So, but it just depends on what I'm cutting as to which one I use. So don't say this is your only one you ever use, because I like this, but it's by far not the only one I use. Don't be afraid to use the right one for each job. So what you use it for, it's up to you. A quick note about the handles. Now, I use the same handle as the micro jig, and that is because it's just a good design. When you flip it back and forth, it feels the same. You could go with any kind of handle design that you want. You can change that on your push pad, depending on what you're doing with it exactly. So don't be afraid to change it. If you keep it balanced for both directions, that'll be a leg up on what you probably need. So, but anyway, that's all I really had to say about that, about the handle itself. As far as the different gripping materials, I have always leaned to sandpaper for a long time. I have it on the bottom of a lot of my push stuff, not just my gripper. So sandpaper, usually a low grit, a real heavy grit like 80 grit, I find is better than a fine grit. But some people don't like that. You can use mouse pad. You can use shelf drawer liner. You know, you can buy rubber material, whatever you want to use. You can use something off the wall. I've got an idea where I think I'm going to make some using silicone caulking. I'm going to spread that out onto a board, nice and flat, put a sheet of paper on there, and then smash that down till it's about an eighth of an inch thick on the bottom, and it's all squeezed out. Let that set up, peel the paper off and cut it out trim, and I'll have a nice flat silicone base on that. And I think that would make a pretty good gripper too. It's the same material, pretty close to what they use on the gripper now. So I have been experimenting with that a little bit, but I think maybe now I'm going to try to make a real set of those using the gripper. I also have excuse me, some blanks where I just glued some sandpaper onto the wood, nice and flat, square. And so now I'm ready to put the grooves in this on my dado stack, and I'll put the grooves in these to give me 2 more gripper blanks that I can do, because I want to do some experiments. So I want to make a couple extra grippers, because I'll probably tear them up before I'm done. You'll see. Also try some weird stuff with them. So anyway, that's kind of where I'm at with the whole gripper. The next thing I really want to talk about is the type of gripper. I just made a new one. That's this one right here. And it's just a prototype. But what makes this different than any others? Instead of sandpaper, I'm using brad nails on the bottom. Now the hair went up on the back of your neck, didn't it? Yeah, see? So anyway, but it's not a big deal, because if you look at my gripper that I've been using for the last year and a half or so, that's it here. And I cut those grooves in it before I started using it. And in all reality, I have not cut into those legs at all. So theoretically, when I put these brad nails in, these brad nails go down through here exactly at the center point of these legs, so that I'm actually using a brad nail in there instead of sandpaper. So I need less area of contact to my piece to hold it down, because all these pin tips are now my holding pads. And I never hit it as long as I follow the same rules I do here. So I marked it out, laid it all out carefully, positive and negatives. The red is the no saw zone. So if I'm in here, in the negative space, then I can cut if the blade falls in there. If it falls into the red space, then I just flip it around and then it will be in the black. So the brad nails I'll never touch anyway. I've used it a few times, and I've been thinking that probably I think I would like to change the length of the brads. Right now, what I did to do that was I started with 3/4 inch piece of wood, and I planed this down to 11/16. And then I shot 3/4 inch brad nails through it so they stuck out 1/16 of an inch at the bottom. And that's what gives me all of those sticking out. Run it across the belt sander gently to kind of even them all up. And that becomes my new gripper pad. So, but theoretically, if you had these stick out far enough, then the blade will never touch the wood on this. Or touch the brad nails if you use the gripper pattern. So, I'm going to give this a try. I'm going to do it with brad nails. And again, I know the hair on the back of your neck, there it goes. But let me talk about that real quick, brad nails. I've been using brad nails in my shop for years, and I assume you have too. I have a pneumatic, and I have a battery-operated nailer. And it's just brad nails, 18 gauge, I think they are. And if I've put my saw through a brad nail once, I've done it 1,000 times over the years. They're just always there. You forget they're there, or you know they're there, but you got to cut something in two. You just cut through it and go. And it really is no big deal. You're not cutting anything any tougher than if you were cutting straight up aluminum. So it's not going to hurt anything, even if you hit one of those brad nails, in all reality. But the gripping power of it really seems to be awesome. We'll see. Now, if you're going to make your own gripper, I would not recommend starting off with the brad nails. I think you should test drive using another kind of more passive gripping compound. However you do it, stay away from the brad nails, because you are going to make a mistake the first few times. First 6 months I was using it in mine, I accidentally would forget to turn it the right direction, or when I set it down, I forgot and turned it around. Then I picked it up and used it, and I kept it in the new direction, not realizing it. After a while, you'll learn not to do that pretty quick. So, if you start with this, you're probably better off. But if you do even run through them, it's not a big deal. Just shoot a couple more brad nails down through in that same line and keep going. No big deal. And you didn't hurt the saw blade, quite honestly, if you took out some of those brad nails like that. So, my thought, I don't know what your opinion is. If that makes the hair go up on the back of your neck, don't do this. But I think this is not that big a deal. And brad nails are not the same thing as going through any other kind of nail. And as you know, circular saws, they cut through 16-penny nails all the time. So I'm sure it could take out one of these little brad nails without even thinking about it. So anyway, food for thought about using brad nails. I think I'm going to like this, but we'll see. I'll let you know. A year down the road, probably, we'll review it and see what I think about that one as compared to using some of the others. Also, just so you know, the one problem that we had with this gripper, and that's why I made the flipper gripper, was if you're cutting a small piece of wood and you're using your gripper, these two edges will line up against the fence. And if this is more narrow, you get overhang of the gripper. Well, when this thing gets so narrow that your handle is off the edge, then it tries to teeter on you. So if I take something very narrow like this, and I put this on here, my handle will actually drop down. So that's harder for me to hold that flat and go through there. That's why I made the flipper gripper. It was more narrow, brought that handle back over closer to the fence. But I've come up with a different solution now. My problem is, I don't know if I can still call this my gripper no moving parts. Here's what I did. I drilled a hole in it. Right here, if you can see that hole. Yeah, I think you saw it. And then if you flip it, there's that hole again. There's one here and one here. So that whatever one's on the outside, that hole is in the same place in relationship to the fence. So if I'm going to do something skinny like this and cut it, I have a little pole, which is just a 1/4 inch dowel rounded off on the ends. And I drilled a hole that size in there. So that now that pole comes out the bottom. This will be the side against the fence. This pole will be out here on the outer edge of the gripper, and my piece is going to be over here. So that's going to allow this to not tip. So if I put this on my piece, the other thing I do is to lock the pole in place is I have just a little wing nut, a number 10 screw that I've threaded into the wood, and I just bring that in and tighten it down against that dowel at the right height. So when I get this where I want it, ready to tighten down, I set this on here, push this down while I'm flat. And now that everything's the same, I can pick it up, tighten this down. And now this pole, when I'm out here on this edge against this piece and I'm against the fence, I don't teeter anymore. This is enough to keep this thing from teetering down. Now I have positive control over this without it teetering, all with just a little stick and a screw. So, drill your hole. You can do this to existing ones. That's what I did here. I would go forward off a center line about half the way to the front. I don't know that I would do it on the corners, but I'm toying with the idea of putting these holes on the corners and maybe putting my screw in from the end. And then also I can make a secondary attachment so that we can actually put a heel on here. So stay tuned. I think we're going to actually put a heel on this. That's one of the things Tom said he didn't really like about it. Trouble is, if I do all this stuff, it's no longer the no moving parts. What a dilemma. Anyway, I hope you like this idea here. This is really very handy when you're doing small parts. I don't even use the flipper gripper anymore for a long time since I came up with this idea. So you might give this an idea a try on yours, or if you have to build a new one, make sure you do this too. So it doesn't take much. So anyway, I think that's everything on my list now. So I hope you like this video. If you have any comments about this, or if you make your own gripper, let me know. If you need my number or my email, this is my email address that you can send pictures to and give me notification or something somewhere. If you do a video on the subject, send it to me, and I'll probably put it on my playlist of gripper stuff. So anybody that wants to build their own, they'll see your video and mine both, so they can help them make theirs the way they want it for them. Because the gripper, you can go any way you want with it. Yours is going to be different than mine, I'll guarantee it. Tom made his, it was different than mine. But he likes his, the way he made it. And I can understand why. So that's what we always find. These are more like guidelines than actual measurements of everything that you do. So, anyway, comments are always appreciated. Leave them below. If you learned something here, or if you like this video, hit that like button. Most importantly, though, please come back again, because I'm nowhere near done. And I want to thank you for stopping by. And we'll see you again soon.